Hello and welcome to another installment of our coronavirus sub-series podcast. I'm Julian Wakefield and today we will be talking to Ollie Kenchington, Philip Bloom and Adam Plowden about their experiences in dealing with recent events. Let's jump straight in with our first guest, professional colorist Ollie Kenchington. Ring, ring, ring.
Hello mate, how you doing?
I'm pretty good, how are you?
Marvellous, wonderful, thank you very much, fit and healthy. Thankfully.
Good to hear it. So, Ollie Kenchington, let's start by, do you want to give us a little bit of an introduction for the people who have not yet had the pleasure of making your wonderful acquaintance?
Yeah, sure, which is no doubt most of them I'm fully expecting. So I'm a colorist. I run a company called Just Grade It. I also run a film production agency called Coro Films. And because I found myself with too much time on my hands, I thought, why not run a third business? So I also run Coro Academy, which is a Blackmagic certified training partner.
Fantastic. Right, today I would like to talk about the coronavirus. So we're doing a few coronavirus special episodes on this podcast.
Fair enough.
Going to talk about it. How are things your end? How's this affected you?
I feel quite guilty in a way because so far very very little impact. I mean, first and foremost, I should point out I don't live in central London like I'm sure a lot of your acquaintances do. I live in Somerset, which is a much more rural, spread out part of the country. We have had far fewer cases of coronavirus here than in London. So up until last night, things have pretty much felt normal. Also, me personally, me and my family live in a nice size house in a nice size plot with a nice big garden and surrounded by fields. And although the kids are off school, there's plenty of space for us to kind of spread out, not get under each other's feet. And so, as I say, I feel rather guilty because so far it feels almost like a holiday at home. I've also, my studio is in a co-working space just up, sort of about 15 minutes away from where I live, and they're all self-contained. We have access to only our units, although they've closed down things like the canteen here and the co-working spaces. Members who have their own, permanent studio spaces here with their own access are still able to come in. I work on my own here anyway, so there's no chance of me interacting with other people, or very very little chance. So yeah, it's not so far made much difference at all. It just happened that we had scheduled in work that involved filming in our suite anyway, because I'm currently, we just started today filming my next training series for MZ, which is colour correction in DaVinci Resolve. So that was always going to be filmed in my suite this time anyway, which is just as well, because we wouldn't have been able to do it if we had a location booked, which is what we've done in the past. So yeah, it's, and in fact the editing for these things, as you probably know, takes ages. Normally takes about a month to edit and color grade these 9-10 hour training videos. So it was always going to be a case of shooting this week and then going into self-imposed post-production exile for a month anyway. So the timing's actually relatively convenient for me.
So it sounds like work-wise you've dodged a bullet.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, and even the training that I do is, a lot of that's been, although initially the training was cancelled, so I do a lot of workshops with people like CVP and ProAV, YouTube Space. I think all of them, without exception, cancelled, and then within a few days actually came back to me and said, "Oh, actually, we're just going to move them online." So,
fantastic.
That's also good. We have very quick internet connection here, so I can be based here and running those workshops. And I've also put up a few courses that we offer through Coro Academy. I've moved to 3-hour long online live training sessions and reduced the price. accordingly, and we've actually sold 3 or 4 of those already. So again, quite convenient.
So you've got work to do, a fast internet connection, a large house with a nice big garden. Do you have a spare room? Can I come stay?
Yes, we do, but no, you can't because of social isolation.
Oh well,
we must be distanced.
I tried.
It was a good try. No, like I said, this is awful. It reminds me of Apple a couple of days ago hurriedly put together an Oprah Winfrey show for Apple TV that they've kind of said, oh, it's available for free for everyone, and it's just Oprah Winfrey sat in her house talking to other celebrities about the impact of coronavirus. And if you read the comments, there's so much hate. It's like, what do these people know about pain? And not that I'm saying that I qualify as any of those things, but I do feel like I said, slightly guilty that we seem to be in a relatively comfortable position right now. Having said that, it's less than 24 hours since the announcement has come in that we're properly locking down. So who knows? There's definitely going to be knock-on impact on people who I am responsible for. But my kids and their education have been massively affected. It may well get to the point where we are struggling to, take the dog for a walk and, bits and pieces like that. It depends how far things end up going.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think
we might struggle to take the dog for a walk, Julian. Help.
First world problems. Oh dear.
It's not going well, is it?
Well, I'm glad that things seem relatively
Should
normal.
I be more tragic?
Or slightly less.
It must be difficult for you because you fly everywhere. You constantly shoot in every country known to man. So it must have made a big impact to you.
Well, yes and no. Yes, because all of our events and all of our jobs have been either cancelled or postponed. The ones that have been cancelled are the kind of, extra ones that we do here and there. But our bread and butter work, which is event-based and international, in international locations, they've mostly been just postponed. Now, our plan this year, amongst other things, was that we had 12 events to film in 12 different countries, and they're roughly one a month. Actually, there's like 13, 14. Anyway, but they've all been pushed to September, October, November, which means that we are going, if everything goes to plan, we're going to have to do all 12 events in 3 months. So that's 3 international locations, and I'm talking like, Shanghai, Sao Paulo, San Francisco.
Which will probably involve bringing in more subcontractors than you were originally planning to, I suspect, and therefore profits coming down. And
possibly,
or you're just going to go hell for leather. And
I think I'll just send Guy away for 3 months and kick back at home.
Get on with it. Yeah. What are you doing about? Because obviously you. Well, I don't know how your company's structured, but do you have employees? Do Guy and Freddie and everyone, are they employees or are they partners?
So Guy and I are both directors and employees of Teralon Media. Yeah. And we have my brother as an editor who is an employee, and Santi, who does our social media stuff for our clients and for us, who is also an employee, and they're both on contracts. So what we're looking into now, and we're speaking with our accountants about this, is the government grants that we can apply for.
To get, was that 80% of their salary? Is that right?
Well, there's that, but the first and seemingly easier one is you can get a £10,000 grant. There are, of course, restrictions, but I think we qualify.
I heard of this. I hadn't heard of any grants. I've heard of their loans, but
yeah. So I mean, the first and easier one, or seemingly easier one that applies to certain people, is the small business grant of about £10,000, and that's for businesses who currently receive small business rate relief and rural rate relief. Now, I believe that means that you have to have a premise, or you have to be renting office space and benefit from these business rate reliefs in question.
And what's that based on? Is that based on turnover, or is that based on how long the company's been trading, or?
I'm a bit fuzzy on the exact specifics, but I think it's do your own research, please, because I might be chatting.
But Julian said you'd give me 10 grand.
Oh well, if Julian said. But I mean, there's a lot of help that the government is giving to small businesses right now. So log on to the HMRC website and look up, or you just Google coronavirus help for small businesses.
Do your own bloody research, Ollie, is what you're really saying.
Well, no, I'm kind of here to
right.
point you in the right direction, and then
Thanks. I appreciate that. No, I genuinely, all I'd heard of was £300,000 worth of, no, sorry, £300 billion worth of loans that were going to be made available. Which
so
is
there's the loans which are 80% guaranteed by the government.
Yeah, which isn't a huge help because you're still borrowing money.
Yeah, you're just
borrowing
money.
And then there was something I saw going around for freelancers, which was like the financial support, which which doesn't apply to me because I'm not a sole trader, but I believe worked out as something like £73 a week or something, which
they get the equivalent of sick pay, which
which is.
See, I'm just looking it up right now. I think it's the equivalent of £94.25 per week.
Oh,
so yes,
so an extra bottle of gin right there.
Yeah, well, it's roughly a gin habit per week.
Yeah, well, that's a bit rubbish for them. I mean, it's you are essentially in the same situation with directors of a business that are also employees. I only employ 2 people. One of them, was our only full-time member of staff, by complete fluke and perfect timing, left about 3-4 weeks ago, I think. Went to a different job. So I was actually advertising for his replacement and was quite far down through the process of looking to recruit when all of this kicked in, and I just suddenly put the brakes on that and thought, well, let's just hold fire. So
that's very lucky.
Typically being a man down at this time of year, when traditionally is a very busy time of year for us, would be a big problem. But actually, it's come at a very fortuitous time at the moment. So I'm thankfully not having to worry about covering sick pay and or covering an extra wage. And it's good because I wasn't ever put in that situation of potentially having to make him redundant because we couldn't afford to keep him on. I've always been financially, I've always been quite prudent. I'm particularly conservative when it comes to if I have less than 6 months worth of income in our business account, I feel like it's getting low. So I've always been that kind of good with money anyway. I feel sorry for people that aren't naturally that way. I know plenty of people who, as long as they've got a tenner in their wallet, they feel like they're okay, and if they have the rug pulled out from under their feet like they have, and they've got no buffer, that is potentially a major issue if you've not planned for losing any income for days or weeks, let alone potentially months. It's a big problem. But as I say, fortunately, there's a buffer in our business account, and if it came to it, there's personal savings that we can dip into, and we can just maybe not send the kids to private school and just take all of that money and
sell your yacht.
Sodom, they seem to be managing without even going to school at all. So,
well, you fired the dog walkers, I hear. So
exactly.
I mean, we're kind of in the
Any
same
other
position.
questions
We have
relating to finance? I feel like I'm going to give you poor answers because clearly I haven't done my research.
No, don't worry. It's more to get people's opinions on it and what people are, what situations people are in.
The big issue for me is that I stupidly, well, not that I was to know, but I stupidly renewed my business lease for vehicles with BMW about 2 weeks before this all kicked off. And so, like it or lump it, I've got 2 brand new hybrid X3s coming in June, and the associated payments. So that's I got all excited when the government lowered the benefit in kind percentage for low polluting vehicles, and was like, "Hey, let's grab 2 really expensive hybrids." Yeah, if you see some guy driving around in a really nice car but weeping, it's probably me.
What is that expression? I'd rather be crying in a really nice car than crying, I don't know, somewhere else.
That old chestnut, yeah. Well, if nothing else, you've cheered me up. Stuck in my edit suite, shooting myself.
Shooting yourself? That sounds great.
Well, filming myself.
Filming yourself,
It hasn't got that bad.
It's been one day into the lockdown, and he's already contemplated.
I can't take it anymore.
Oh dear.
Oh, Jesus. This whole thing's made me realise how isolated my existence already was, because I haven't noticed much difference. I go home and then I come back to a grading suite and sit on my own, and then I go home again. It's not really. I don't really interact with people. I don't particularly like people, if I'm honest, Julian, and so this whole thing's kind of ideal for
blessing,
me,
isn't it?
It's a bit of a dream. It is.
Are your people standing around you right now, listening to you, to you tell them?
They know it. They know I don't like them. It's fine.
I'm glad to hear that. That everything has kind of panned out and aligned itself with fortuitous timing, apart from your cars.
Thank you.
But
apart from cars, yeah. Woe is me.
All right. Well, let's catch up soon. And
okay.
Good luck with the rest of your filming.
See you on the other side.
And I look forward to seeing an MZ course with you wearing a mask.
Yeah.
That's going to be weird.
Colour correction in a PPE mask. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Speak
dude.
Soon.
Take care.
Bye. So there's some pretty good news from Ollie. I am glad to see that some people are still doing pretty well in the midst of all of this chaos. Our next guest is a very good friend of mine and needs no introduction. If you haven't heard of him before, you probably don't work in the filmmaking industry. Let's hear from Philip Bloom and no doubt 1 or 2 of his cats.
You can't even see my shot, so I don't know why I'm referring to it. You'll see it when you get it, when the internet finally sends it.
Sounds good. So, you at home?
Yeah, I am at home. How could you tell?
I don't know, just a wild guess.
I got cats here, but they're out of frame, so you can't see them. I'm not going to disturb them.
So, we're talking about the coronavirus today.
What?
You heard of that?
What's that then? No, I've been trying to ignore the news recently. I don't know what's been going on.
So you've been self-isolating for a while anyway now.
Well, I've been self-isolating for months, editing the MZ course since the summer last year. Literally going 2 weeks without leaving the house frequently, and finally finished it in beginning of February, the last one. And then during that I was doing some work on the FX9 review, so the Sony FX9 review. And so that took about 7 weeks of editing. And so by the time I was ready to rejoin the world decided to shut down.
Oh, what a coincidence, huh?
I mean, that's just mean. I think it's just, doing it on purpose. But yeah, so it's, as you know, things are very, very weird and very strange. And I was driving around doing some filming in the car yesterday, just to try and capture, social distancing and see how many people there are. Because I'm trying to capture the next few weeks, months, and changing London. And not most, but I would say probably about at least a quarter wearing masks that I saw, which, considering a few days earlier I went out and nobody was wearing masks. So I think people are actually taking it more seriously, and people were spaced out. The only things I saw for people close together, bus stops still standing a bit too close together. That's about it, because they're forgetting to get on a bus, so it doesn't really matter, does it? But it is changing. I'm gonna hopefully still go out every few days just to try and get a sense of how it's changing, but not just in this area. I'm sort of spreading it out, but in London, but just so I can get a sense of it.
So I mean that's one thing that
I'm not sure I understand.
See, my watch doesn't understand the concept of this. Basically, it's like a time capsule that when people can look back at, instead of just the news, they can see something a bit different. So, you know, like cinematic B-roll. God, I hate that phrase.
So you're still going to be going out and filming all of this, right? Or are you doing it all from your car, or?
Well, no, there's no reason why I can't get out and do it on from tripods and stuff. My first video was on, 70 to 200, most of it, and a 105, so it was all long lens stuff. Just keep away from people. And, people say, oh, it's not essential. Well, I consider it my job. It's what I do. Yeah. I may not be being hired right now because nobody's hiring anybody, but I can still do what people would generally hire me to do, which is make videos, make films. And as documentaries is my main form of filming, that's what I'm trying to do, is just document London, because we've never, this isn't in anybody's lifetime as if they had like this. Even during the Second World War, when we were being blitzed, people still had the freedom to go and see their families and go about their business. Of course, it's obviously much more dangerous back then, and more people were dying. But this is a very unique thing, and it is scary. It is scary, even if you think you're invulnerable by being young. You're not. You just need to be smart, really, about it all. And any filming that I do is smart. It'd be nice to talk to people and get their thoughts and opinions, but really that means me getting close to them. I don't need that. And also the news is getting that. There's so many people being interviewed about it. I feel I just want to just capture the atmosphere and how it feels as it changes.
You could always put a microphone on a boom pole or something and hold it out.
I could do, but
you don't want to go through that effort.
You still need to actually stop people to ask them, and that's, people don't want to stop. People don't want to. Yeah. They just want to keep moving and stay away. I mean, it's like when I was, I went out last week just to the shops, and this was the first time I've probably been out, actually, because I hadn't really been out. And I just found it amazing that just seeing people just on my streets, seeing somebody coming up, crossing the other side of the road, because, you can't avoid in the streets. The 2 meters is fine, but if you're coming the opposite direction, you're screwed. You look at Richmond High Street. How are you supposed to keep 2 meters? That you're gonna cross people, aren't you, and stuff. So it's
a weird feeling when you get that, and when you're walking along and people kind of avoid you and walk away from you, and even though you know what it's for, it's kind of like it's such a weird feeling. Having that happen.
They've been doing that for me for years, though, so it's nothing strange. So I don't take it personally. I'm used to it now.
Yeah. So going back to the announcement last night, saying that we should all stay at home, I think a lot of people are kind of scratching their heads as to what they mean exactly, because he said that we could still go out for obviously things like shopping and sport activities and that kind of stuff, but also work if it is essential. Then in any published documents, it says we are still allowed to go to and from work, but only if it is absolutely necessary to do so. Only if you cannot do that work from home. So it doesn't mention work that is essential. But even bearing in mind that phrase essential work, is it work that is essential to you, or is it essential workers like doctors, staff, nurses, police, and that kind of stuff?
For me, I think it's clear that the essential means you haven't got a choice.
Yeah.
So that includes people who are working for businesses who are saying, sorry, we still need you. Sports Direct, for example, they're saying we are needed. Our shops need to be open because we want to supply home exercise equipment. So people who work in those shops, they're essential. And, whilst they're not essential workers to the survival of Britain right now, it's essential for them because their employer is insisting that they continue to work, and so therefore they haven't got a choice. Would you do you resign? I don't know. If you don't want to go to work, especially a company like that, because I could imagine that's pretty crappy anyway. But it is vague. It is weird that saying what it is these aren't rules as such because they're not enforced. They can't enforce them. How can you enforce it? Saying, Julian, hang on a minute, you already went for a run today. Why are you doing a second one? This is the police pulling over. They're not going to do that. Nobody's going to keep track of these things. So it's there to basically say to you, okay, this is what we, it's still advisory to a point, because before it was the only thing I think that is going to be enforced from what I can see is the gatherings of people. And you see that down in Richmond, Riverside. You see teenagers and stuff. That sort of thing will be dispersed, and those are the sort of things which I think will be. The other stuff is really down to people's common sense, which is scary. But I think the thing is, we both know that if this is not, if people still are going out and you still see people down the high streets and stuff, even though everything's shut, then he will do something more draconian, which will be like they have in France, which is where you need to go online. And if you need to go to shops, you need to fill out the form online and print it off so you have your papers to show to any authorities. That's what would be coming to if this doesn't work. So, the reason this happened was because of the weekend. Everybody went out because it was sunny and lovely, which is what I was worried about.
Yeah, it's kind of comes at a very annoying time when it's spring in England. It's beautiful outside today.
Yeah, and it's going to be, we've got the clocks changing in, a week or so. The end of the month.
So we get an extra hour to stay inside.
So we get an extra hour in the evening, which is going to encourage people to want to stay out longer. Whereas, it's, yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to essential work, so... And they're saying don't travel to your families and stuff. Okay, fair enough. But then it comes to essential work when it comes to freelancers and stuff. So like my cleaner yesterday, I asked her what she's going to do. And she said, well, as long as people still hire me, I'm going to clean. So it is essential for her. Until we see self-employment, what they're offering, come through, we don't really, we need to figure things out ourselves for now. But I think something is coming. They have to. I think the reason why it's been so slow is because it is incredibly complicated. It's easy in a way with PAYE because it's so simple. It's like, this is their salary, blah, blah, blah. They work for this company. Whereas freelancing is hard. And let's be honest, places like people like cleaners and plumbers, a lot of people do a lot of cash in hand, don't they? So to try and keep their tax down, and they're going to really suffer because if I'm pretty certain whatever they come up with will be based upon what you declare each tax year, and it'll be a percentage of that, I expect.
The percentage of the medium of the past 3 years, I suppose, because even if you do declare your day rate, you can't say my day rate's £900. I'll have 80% of that.
Yeah, but what if you've only been doing it for a year? What if this is your first year? What if you left a staff job last year and you're starting, or you just come out of university?
Yeah, it is very hard for them to kind of calculate, how much freelancers should get and that kind of stuff. Because right now, all that they're promised is statutory sick pay, which is just above £94 a week, which is not much.
No. So no, I mean, I think this is the reason. I mean, they've been very evasive about saying anything about it, which has been the frustrating thing. I wish they'd just come out and just said, we haven't forgot the self-employed, we are working on it. If they just said that would have been so much better than just avoiding it and saying what we're doing is we're trying to prop up the economy, and that's the answer that's been. We've put in these very strong measures. Like, that's not the answer to the question of what about freelancers, because Britain, the amount of people who are freelance in Britain is enormous, absolutely enormous, and it is.
Yeah, I think it's about
a big problem.
15% of 15% of the workforce, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, I mean, like I've taken, I've got a 3-month mortgage holiday from my bank, although it doesn't start until the next payment, which will be May. There's still, that's not all my outgoings. It's the biggest lump sum, but I have lots of outgoings, and they'll still be going out. And £94 a week is not going to come anywhere close to it.
Yeah.
And none of us are prepared for this. There's probably some smart people out there who have savings, but they're savings, aren't they? They're there for a reason. People will be dipping into their tax money without question to keep things afloat. And they're delaying VAT. You don't have to file it for the next quarter is delayed until, but then it's still be payable. It's not like it's like we're letting you off. It's still going to be there. And that's assuming that in 3 months' time things are going to be back to normal, which I doubt it, really, to be honest with you.
Even if this does clear up and we're all let outside again, that doesn't mean the economy will have recovered from the hit that it's taking.
Well, that's right. I mean, when it comes down to, the only positive I can kind of think about it is that when it comes to businesses trying to get back up on their feet, not like, your business and my business, but businesses who hire us, marketing actually will be kind of quite a big thing, I would have thought, to try and, get them back on their feet in many ways. Because, it's going to be, it's you just have to think about it. All these shops are closed, all these restaurants are closed, cafes are closed, the airlines aren't flying. Very little is still normal, and that is kind of supermarkets, really, and that's about it, really. So, I mean, everything else. Well, actually, I mean, Amazon and everything, those sort of companies still seem to be going, which is interesting. God, what would we do without Amazon? But yeah, it's just the effect it's going to have on the whole country is just astonishing, And God, could you imagine? I don't know how it's going to. I mean, we are still part of Europe, at least right now. I don't know if that's going to make any changes to things. It's pretty much the worst time to be doing Brexit, I would have thought.
Yeah.
Is, basically deal with it on your own, basically.
I mean, all of this is going to certainly delay talks.
Delaying the Olympics, so they're going to should be delaying Brexit. Yeah. I think they've got more important things to do than negotiate, and also the negotiators have all got the virus anyway. So
you said that there's going to be a marketing push to get when people are allowed back out to kind of encourage people to go get back out and start spending again. Do you reckon we'll see a boom in our industry? People coming in and asking for promotion?
I don't know if we see a boom. No, I don't know if we see a boom. And it all depends upon who your clients are. So my clients aren't high street stores and things like that. They are the corporates that I do will be businesses who are much smaller and will probably be very, very financially hit. So their money will be limited, full stop. I just think it's sort of like the bigger companies, we're back. Those sort of companies will really be pushing. I don't know. I mean, it's just guessing. And also wish and hoping that that's going to happen. I think if you're not in the event industry now, the event industry is obviously suffering badly in weddings and stuff. But God, I could tell you something. You could probably do a lot worse than. If you're a shooter and you're worried about work, is start marketing yourself as doing weddings, because there's going to be suddenly everybody's going to be wanting to get married who've been delaying it over however long it's going to be, and now they'll want to. Mind you, I don't know how much money they'll have because everybody's going to be broke. I don't know. Nobody's going to have any money. We're basically going to have to become a communist country under a Tory government, which is very strange. Whoever thought that's going to happen? We're becoming a more socialist country than Corbyn could ever have imagined under Boris Johnson. I think the biggest issue a lot of people are going to have, apart from money, is keeping themselves busy and finding ways to not go mental inside. Because look, I've got a nice house. I have more than enough space for myself, and I've got everything I need in here, apart from company, just my cats. But then you have then you have people who will be cooped up with their family 24/7, and will find it quite hard because it's not normal. It's just going to be a strain on every relationship, for sure. People need space. People need, going to work is great space for relationships, and that's going to be gone from a lot of people. We're all going to be working from home. But there's the positive of spending time with your families. So it'll be interesting to see, as a social thing, just to see a social experiment in a way, just to see how everybody deals with this sort of thing. The fact that we can still go out and exercise and is important, for sure. And if you're a family, you can all go out together. But then you get pulled over by the police and like, who are these 6 people? They're my kids. 6? Yep. Ever heard of contraception? Nope. I'm a Catholic. Ah.
Well, I suppose if going out for exercise is your only is the only time you can get out of the house, then you might want to get away from your family a little bit if you're cooped up.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think the only way you're going to be able to socially meet your friends and stuff is say, look, I'm going to Tesco's at 3 o'clock. I go to Tesco's at 3 o'clock, and as long as we're 2 meters apart, we'll be all right.
We can talk.
We can talk.
Yeah.
Talk. I haven't been to the supermarket. I haven't been to a big supermarket since this has happened. But is it like one way around the aisles?
No.
To stop people crossing.
Well, I haven't been to a big supermarket since obviously last night when we were all told to stay home. But before that, it was as normal, except that there's nothing in the aisles, and people just try and stay further apart. You have to get close to people inevitably if you're in the same aisle as them.
And people aren't wearing masks then, or any other protection. I mean, the thing is, gloves are fine.
Some people are.
Gloves are fine as long as you don't touch your face, because it's not the hands are not the issue. It's the virus on. If you have gloves and the virus gets on the gloves, it's still the same thing, isn't it? You're still gonna. Yeah. And they're talking. I think that I read that it's like a week or so. No, 24 hours on a cardboard box. It can survive on. So if you've had an Amazon delivery,
so even if you do wear a mask and gloves, but you pick up a box that has the virus on it, you bring it home, you take your mask and gloves off, and then you're touching that cardboard box. Or
I think in a way you're probably better off without gloves, because you can just wash your hands. Otherwise, you're chucking out your gloves each time, aren't you? Yeah. They're like surgical type, disposable gloves. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, the thing is, we talked about this before, it's like, you kind of want to get it. As long as you're relatively healthy, you kind of want to get it and hope you just get through it, because then it will just relieve so much of the paranoia.
That's the thing. You're not guaranteed immunity. There have been many cases of reinfection, and even if you do have some immunity to it, you don't know how long that will last.
No.
So, I mean, I kind of feel that way with Laura, my girlfriend, who's a nurse, who we think that she got it off of one of her patients. I mean, she had all of the symptoms straight after working with COVID confirmed patients. So, I mean, she hasn't been tested, but it's pretty likely that she did get it. And I'd been hanging around her around that time, so we've been self-isolating for a couple of weeks now. And the couple of days that I was out after the recommended 2 weeks, I felt a lot more relaxed, because it's kind of like, well, I got it, didn't get any symptoms, absolutely fine. I'm not really worried about getting it again myself. So I'm just staying away from my family and staying away from.
Yeah, I just think that, once there's a test that can show that you've either had it, have it, and hopefully shows that you have antibodies against it, and then, that will be I mean, that's essential, really. The only way they're going to get any sense of numbers is to test as many people as they can, because they haven't a clue, really. They really don't. And, you know, they're talking about it being way, 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 way higher. And that's the thing, is people see the numbers of, like, you know, whatever, thousands of cases right now. They're like, out of 67 million or whatever it is, population of the UK, what's the odds of me bumping into somebody like that? That's the thing. They're the ones who've been tested. Why have they been tested? Because they've either been in contact with somebody or more likely are sick. You know, your girlfriend was she tested?
No, she wasn't tested. I hear they're only testing people who are sick and need further care, because we've gone past the stage where that matters. Yeah.
So there's no way of knowing that, you know, what the actual numbers are. They're meaningless. The only numbers that are kind of they know are the deaths, because they are actually testing post-mortem, whereas some countries actually aren't even doing that. They're not even testing post-mortem to actually find out. It's all very depressing and scary. They're talking about this, isn't it? Oh, lollipop! Ah! Lollipop's joined me now. Hello. What?
There's worse company to have in self-isolation, Phil.
They're great, and thankfully they can't catch it, because that would be bloody awful. I think my advice is for just managing your time is, if you're at home, is don't sit in your pajamas all day. Get up, have a routine, because you know, I've having done so much editing at home, I know what it's like, and I know that if I don't get up at a certain time, and if I don't, you know, do these certain things, then I won't get my work done. And it's important to, and the days just drift into each other, and it's just like, oh, where am I? I think it's important to try and maintain some sort of structure within your day. And, you know, if you do start to edit, and if you can put together some stock footage, or even shoot some stock footage of your family, of everyday type stuff, that's good. Just try and be creative as much as possible. And, you know, if you're on your own, then, well, that's what FaceTime and Skype's for, I guess. But, you know, I've got my neighbours.
Take advantage of the fact that you can still go outside now and then. Try and get a workout in the park in the morning or something.
Yeah, exactly. And my next door neighbour, Mick, he's in his late 70s, and he said to me, Phil, if you need anything, let me know. Dude, wrong way round.
Oh, bless him. All right. Well,
Crazy.
Let's chat soon. And yeah, thanks for dropping in and letting us know how you're experiencing all this. We look forward to seeing your videos from your outings over the next couple of weeks and months.
Hopefully, yeah.
Our final guest today is Adam Plowden. Adam is a freelance camera operator, and we actually do quite a lot of work with him at Teralon Media. So let's give him a call now and see what he has to offer. I'm planning on maybe shaving my head completely if I don't get access to a hairdresser within the next month and a half.
Oh, you're kidding. Surely not.
Maybe. To be determined. Anyway, Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Julian. Good to see you.
And you. Bit of a special edition of the podcast here. Obviously a remote one. For those who don't know you, do you want to give us a brief introduction on who you are?
Sure, yeah. I'm Adam. I've been working with you guys at Teralon for quite a while now. I'm a camera operator, video producer, based in South London and in lovely leafy Surrey. I do a lot of event work, so event production, both in kind of like the sports field with Teralon, but also a lot in the kind of corporate world as well. I like to specialise in kind of same-day editing content, making corporate content so much more interesting than it certainly has been over the last few years. I also do a lot of voluntary work with the Scout Association as well. So over the last week or so, because of coronavirus, I've been kind of leading the transformation to bring all of our program delivery onto a virtual platform. So that's been quite exciting and quite different. Yeah, I think that's kind of like a brief summary. I never like talking too much about myself.
So, I guess you kind of touched upon it, but how has this all affected you?
It's been quite a dramatic change. Usually this is a really, really busy period for work, and it has kind of like dropped off the face of the earth, really. It's something that I've never ever seen before, and I know that there's so many of us that are in exactly the same position as well. So that's kind of nice because it gives the situation that we're going to a sense of unity. I'm talking to other camera operators and other freelancers that work in this area, and they're all in the same boat. So yes, we're going through a very strange time at the moment where work is been postponed or cancelled. I've kind of accepted it as what it is. Yes, some really exciting projects aren't going to be going ahead. Some of them have just been postponed to later on in the year. Some are holding off to kind of like the June, July period. So waiting for that kind of that period where possibly things can and production can start picking up again. I kind of am hoping for it to obviously not be too far in the future when we can carry on getting outside with a camera and shooting and meeting up again. But I think as well, this is a time where we need to kind of strategize and think a little bit about who we are as creatives, our USPs, our library of work. It's quite nice to have periods of downtime, obviously not over an elongated period like this, but it gives you a chance to reflect on the work that you've done, where you want to go in the future, and the kind of work that you want to produce. And I think if you don't have that, if you don't take those breathers, then you kind of get stuck in the same loop, and it's quite difficult to, when you're kind of, you love your job, but you're doing your job to earn money, it can be quite difficult to get out of that cycle unless you look at things from a wider perspective.
Yeah, it does give you the chance to take a step back, take a breather, avoid creative burnout. And that's actually in our, well, before all of this happened, we had recorded a few episodes of this podcast, and a theme that kept coming up in the last couple of ones that have not been published yet is mental health, and specifically the one we did with Phil Arntz, which will be released over the next coming weeks. We spoke a lot about creative burnout, and I suppose this comes at a time where, I mean, it's unfortunate because it's kind of event season where everything seems to be ramping up for a lot of people. But you know, as you said, it's not necessarily a bad thing all round. It gives you the chance to update your website and do things like that.
Yeah. I think, times like this, it's really, really hard sometimes working in this industry because you get periods where you work intensively hard for a really long period of time. And sometimes when there's nothing going on for, say, a week or 2 weeks, everything feels like the kind of world has stopped spinning. I know that I've personally felt like that sometimes. And I suffer from SAD, and I've had anxiety and depression in the past. And when you look at kind of the industry as a whole, sometimes we are very kind of isolated characters. We quite often work on our own or as part of a small team. We edit on our own. We kind of like do all of the planning and the preparation on our own sometimes. And it can be a struggle to continue doing that for a long period of time. And I know, like, we had a bit of a chat earlier on in the year, and like work was going well, but at the same time, it was just a kind of a really strange period in regards to kind of how I was feeling, and it wasn't a good thing. And luckily, we've got a really kind of nice, close-knit community of filmmakers and video producers. So quite a lot of us are all kind of like, we all help each other out. And it's really nice to know that there is this community that surrounds us. We aren't actually on our own, despite sometimes it feeling like we really are.
Yeah, I mean, that is certainly something that I've felt in the past couple of days and weeks, and that from talking to people on this podcast, I've kind of found out that other people feel this way as well. But this has brought about a sense of community, and I suppose if this was happening to one person, and if work had vanished for you alone, and everyone else is continuing as normal, then that would be extremely overbearing, I guess.
Yeah, you're right, and that happens to all of us at the end of the day. The kind of the way that we work and the industry that we work in is extremely volatile. You never really know what's happening 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the line. And yeah, you can suddenly get into a place where you see everybody else around you making really, really amazing work. They get the most incredible opportunities and get to travel all over the place, or get to work with some really famous people, or they get to try out all of this new amazing equipment. And sometimes you can be sat at home thinking, I've worked so hard up to this point, surely there must be some door that I can open, or where am I going to be able to find that opportunity? And in regards to like how people can kind of keep themselves going and keep themselves motivated, is reaching out to others to find out about any kind of creative opportunities, or just kind of keeping a contact going. Just linking this back to this coronavirus situation is that all of us are currently in the same boat, and luckily we can all talk about the situation that is currently taking place. But I think we should all be a little bit more kind of open-minded as towards maybe that person hasn't been posting their work recently online, or you haven't had a chat with them for a little while. All of those things that you kind of think of, I should probably give them a ring, or I should send them a message, but don't get round to it because you might be too busy. That person might really need some help and support. And through kind of making these kind of collaborative networks, even if you're on set or on a shoot, just lending a hand just for the fun of it, just so it gets you out of the house, that's something that will be a lot more beneficial to you in terms of your mental well-being and your feeling of self-worth than either not reaching out for that opportunity or you not giving that opportunity to somebody else. I personally know that it's sometimes really difficult to be able to reach out and say, oh, hey, do you think I might be able to tag along and do this? Or do you need a hand to do that? And it is a challenge. If you're not feeling well in yourself, then sometimes your kind of like mental state can be, I don't want to be a burden on them, or I don't want to feel like I'm pulling them down if I ask them to help, or I might essentially kind of make them feel bad if I feel bad. I was travelling to New York last November for a shoot, a kind of like a conference there. I was doing kind of same day editing, same day shooting and stuff. And another production company was setting up in the airport because they were doing a shoot for Virgin. It was about one of their new planes. So I got chatting with them. I saw they had, I think, a red Gemini there, so I was like a little bit kind of keen on their tech or what was going on and stuff. You know, we're all kind of geeks at heart, aren't we, really? And I was just chatting with them, just gave them a follow on Instagram, sent them a message just saying it was great to meet you. And we keep in touch. And they got in touch the other week and said, hey, look, we're looking for a DOP for this shoot. Are you available to come on board? And I was. So we had a chat about that. Unfortunately, the shoot didn't come off because of all of this taking place. But, you know, it's one of those things where you keep the links going. Don't get yourself kind of falling down the rabbit hole with things.
Well, two things there. The first is that networking is very important, and that getting yourself out there and talking to people like you did at the airport is very important. But also, reaching out and asking for help or offering help for other reasons, such as mental health. So some very good tips and advice there, both in normal times and in these strange times as well. You, like many others, or like pretty much everyone, have had work cancelled or postponed. And now we're being asked to stay indoors. What do you think of all of that? Are you worried about work and about income in the next couple of months, or have you been able to put aside, or what's your situation with that?
Over the last couple of years, I've been like working super hard and saving really hard to buy a house, and I thought that this year I'm going to be able to buy a house. This is going to be amazing. Obviously, next to, I don't know, a really expensive camera, the next biggest thing that you buy, and I was really gearing up for this big kind of like life event, and obviously that's now not going to happen because of income essentially just not being there anymore. It is a worry because I now haven't been working for probably 2.5 weeks maybe, and at the rate of the way that things are going, I'm probably not going to get another production job until maybe the mid to the end of June. So that's a long time. It's what, 2.5 months, nearly 3 months, and you kind of go, well, you can kind of streamline everything that you'd usually spend your money on. So obviously Adobe have been really good in giving 3 months credit to your Adobe CC subscription. I've talked to HMRC about tax. That's been pushed back. There are kind of processes that you can do so that you can alleviate that cost burden from anything associated with your business. But obviously, if you've got rates to pay and rent, then unless you have a kind of buffer fund, then you're in a really bad situation. I like to have a certain amount of safety net money there, so that what I do and my kind of operating costs can tick over for at least 3 months, paying myself minimal money as possible. That's hopefully kind of a bit of a common practice between us, knowing how work fluctuates throughout the year. All self-employed people are now in a really kind of bad situation because the £94.50 a week that was originally suggested will not cover anywhere near the kind of normal living costs that kind of people have to pay out on in this day and age. And that's even, I think the health minister said that there was no way that he could live on £94 a week. So at least there's some solidarity there, I guess. But we are hoping that today that there is an announcement that levels the financial support that will be given by the government, that levels it with that kind of 80% threshold that was offered to people that are in full-time employment. So
today being March 24th, in case this will be released hopefully within the next couple of days.
Okay. Yes. So the date that Julian said, because I have lost track of all days. I don't even know what day it is today. I think it's Wednesday today. No, Tuesday. Julian's having to check.
Yeah. It's Tuesday, March 24th.
Okay, good. So Tuesday, March 24th might be the turning point in the worry for many self-employed freelancers that are in this situation. Maybe.
Because currently what's available, so for freelancers and sole traders, is statutory sick pay of just over £94 a week.
When you look at how the creative industry operates as a whole, the people that are currently sat at home working, not working, if you are ingesting any type of media content, the probability that was either filmed by, edited by, produced by, even games, scripts, all of those kind of creative industries, the probability is extremely high that that was produced by a freelancer. They are, like we are, essentially the kind of core of the kind of the beating heart of the creative industries, and the restructuring of the BBC that happened probably 10 years ago was getting rid of all of its full-time technical crew, well, the majority of their full-time technical crew, their outside broadcasting crew, and replacing them with freelancers because it was more cost-effective. So even big broadcasters are now having to essentially kind of shift the way that they can work with freelancers. The UK TV and film industry is one of the largest our largest exporters. I think it's something like £4 billion per year. I think I might need to fact check that. It's somewhere around that. That is our export in terms of television, film, kind of that entertainment sector. So yeah, we want to see support from the government, and hopefully that does come very, very soon. I mean, we'll see how that goes, but at the end of the day, it's very, very difficult to balance creativity with security. And one really nice, enjoyable thing about being a freelancer and working on all of these different projects is that almost every project and every person that you interview, every location that you visit, it's all different. And I sometimes feel like, for me, that variety is part of the creative challenge and is kind of why I love doing what I do. That's kind of the real wonderful challenge about being a freelancer and working in this environment, is that we know not every day is going to be the same. And would we lose that aspect of creativity, flexibility, freedom to experiment, if we worked in a marketing department in a company or an organisation like that?
So with last night's announcement that we should all stay at home now, it seems, as far as I can tell, that we are still allowed to go out and do our jobs and film. What's your take on that?
I think that despite our greatest personal intentions of wanting to earn a wage, we should follow the government's advice and do the right thing. I am going to go out for a walk later today just to get out of the house, and I'll take my camera with me. I've got this ready to go, the 5D Mark III with the Lomagon 32mm lens, so I haven't actually had a proper chance to go and kind of just take some stills with that. So I'm going to go and have a walk in the kind of golden hour time, just taking some stills. I mean, I saw a post on a kind of like a UK camera operators group on Facebook earlier today, which was along the lines of, I don't have any work, but I want to go out and film some stuff with my camera. What should I do? And I think somebody's reply to that in a comment was, what part of filming is essential? And that's a very good point. Like, we could go out and kind of film our passion projects or go out and do kind of like one-to-one filming on our own, as long as we're really safe. But I mean, I don't know. It's we're currently in a time that we haven't actually kind of experienced before. It's especially in like kind of like especially our lifetimes. Me personally, like I'm helping kind of some elderly neighbours around here, like with their food shopping and getting essential bits for them. My parents both have kind of quite bad underlying health conditions, so I don't want to be passing anything on to them that I could potentially get from any kind of like contact. So I think it's a very kind of personal decision as to whether you do it. Me personally, well, actually, it depends how much they pay, I guess.
Well, because there's one side of it is that if you're just going out for, to play with your camera and to do some personal stuff, then you should maybe think about staying inside. But if you're actually being hired to go and film something, as far as I can tell, that going and doing that is traveling to and from work when it absolutely cannot be done at home, which is part of the guidelines that have been given. So as long as you're safe and that you are taking steps necessary to disinfect everything, stay far from people as much as possible, then theoretically that is something you can do. Whether you should do it or not is the next question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's going to depend on your own kind of personal situation, really. I know that because I have the welfare of others to look after, I wouldn't want to put them in any kind of health situation, because I know that if I did so, I can just see some people walking along the road at the moment as we speak. That there are some people that are just kind of ignoring this, and like I work next to a nice massive window, and you can see people ignoring the advice just like it's any other day. But yeah, you're right. Like if you're going to interpret it as an essential journey that you're going to have to do, you're going to have to make contact with people, then yeah, I guess you could go and do the work. Yeah, it's moral standing. It's a very hard, very difficult question to answer. But that being said, obviously, like we're getting good news reports and all of that kind of stuff from all over the place, and so there are camera operators out there, are producers out there that are on the kind of front line to the coronavirus situation, and obviously you would expect them to take the same precautions as I would, as you would, as anybody else would, to keep themselves safe and to keep everybody else safe.
Great. Well, thank you, Adam, for stepping in and talking to us in these uncertain times. Your thoughts have been undeniably impressive.
Oh, it's my pleasure. No, it's always good to have these kind of conversations that don't just involve camera kit. It makes you look outside of the box to the wider world, and particularly in what the country and what everybody else is going through at the moment. We're in a time where we need to have these kind of talks and these kind of discussions, because people might have advice for you that you never knew existed. And also we're all, unless you are out and about doing stuff, we're all at home sitting on our asses in front of a computer anyway. So yeah, this is valuable.
And that also includes anyone listening in. We would love to hear from you. So if you, depending on where you're listening to this or watching this, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., do reach out and give us your opinions on, and let us know what you're doing. Whether you're staying at home, whether you keep working, what you're doing to stay fit and sane, I guess.
Yeah. Watch masterclasses, or like Philip Bloom's photography for filmmakers course, or like keep your education going. This is kind of, if you're not working on something, make use of the time. So, yeah.
Having filmed a lot of Philip's masterclass filmmaking for photographers course, I highly recommend it.
The master classes are really good as well. There's some great ones on advertising and others on.
I've seen those on advertised on social media.
It's really good. Really
so
good.
much, but I might just jump in, take this opportunity to try some out.
Yeah, it's a bit of creative inspiration for you, and sometimes, like I mentioned earlier, you need something to look at, to give yourself a little bit of a pathway going forward. So yeah, check it out and experiment.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Adam.
Brilliant. Thank you, Julian.
Speak to you soon. All right.
Cool.
Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye. And that's all we have time for on this episode of the podcast. Once again, thanks for listening. or watching. Make sure you subscribe to not miss future episodes, and feel free to send us a message with either some feedback or maybe a question that you want answered on this podcast. The best way to reach us is on our Instagram at Teralon Media. But in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay indoors. Bye for now.